Hi everyone, I'm Summer Dash. Welcome to this special edition of Energycast. East Tennessee, the future of cancer treatment is coming from right here. That's why, for much of this episode, we are showing you exactly what the future holds in the fight against the deadly disease and how Oak Ridge comes into play. You're going to hear from national leaders and top medical companies. They were all here because, as so many of you know, it takes a team to take on cancer. Now they're making sure no one fights alone.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, your source for the Department of Energy's environmental cleanup news. Energycast starts now.
In closing, I'm going to want to hear from the real heroes here, the folks that are actually doing the work in the trenches, this wonderful panel today. But in closing, thank you for the privilege of being your congressman. Thank you for representing, I think, one of the most patriotic, important cities in the world in Oak Ridge. And most importantly, thank you for the great work that you're doing.
That is Congressman Chuck Fleischmann speaking at the No One Fights Alone event. That gathering brought together government officials, execs from nuclear innovation company TerraPower, leadership from Cardinal Health, and environmental management officials. They met in Oak Ridge to talk about curing cancer. Our backyard is home to the world's only stockpile of uranium-233. It's left over from previous research in the 1950s and 60s. Now, part of EM's mission is to safely get rid of that radioactive material. But first, an isotope extracted from U233 is being used for next-generation cancer treatment. There is a limited amount of U233, so pulling out that life-saving isotope prior to disposing of it is vital. As you can see, major players making this all possible. It's through a public-private partnership. We had a chance to talk with Scott Clonch, the president of TerraPower's Isotopes program. Once employees with DOE contractor Isotech extract the isotope, it's sent into the hands of his team. That's where it's transformed into the life-saving treatment.
So targeted alpha therapy is a form of nuclear medicine designed to really deliver very precise medicine just to the cancer cells.
Through this project, up to 100 times more doses will be available each year. That'll translate into nearly 500,000 doses annually. We also had a chance to talk with Mike Pintak. He's the president of Cardinal Health and focuses on getting those treatments out to patients.
There's tremendous hope, and for significant cancers that are out there, be it prostate cancer, neuroendocrine tumors, lymphomas. Science is making tremendous progress, and it's very exciting to see.
Later stage clinical trials are expected to begin next year. Once this treatment is available, he tells us it'll be within 3 hours of every zip code in America. Senator Marsha Blackburn also sent in a video message to mark this occasion.
This benefits everyone, and I am so excited to see what the next year holds. Those of you who have worked with me in the past know that I'm a strong supporter of putting Cold War legacy waste material to good use. Because of the work you're doing, more doses of next-generation cancer treatments will be available to children in hospitals all across Tennessee. The isotopes we provide to our partners and allies worldwide are also a key form of medical diplomacy, which, as you know, is important in our fight to make sure the U.S. retains its rightful role as a global leader.
All right, so we just heard how thorium-229 is being used in cancer treatment, but how do our incredibly skilled employees actually extract it from the uranium? It started in 2019 using glove boxes. That's what this video is showing you right now. Lower dose U233 was processed in one of those. Once that was done, staff moved on to the portion of the U233 inventory that has higher radiation levels. That material must be handled in protective, shielded rooms known as hot cells. That's what's happening in Oak Ridge right now. To explain how it works, I'll hand this next report over to John Gray. He works for Isotech, and employees there are responsible for executing the process.
The U233 canisters we'll be processing in hot cells will be much higher in radiological dose than those processed in glove boxes. Because of this, they will need to be packed into lead-shielded carriers in our Building 3019 storage facility. The overpack and carrier weigh thousands of pounds, so a forklift is used to transport the canister to Building 2026 where processing will take place. Once at 2026, the overpack is removed. The carrier will then be moved into place in front of the hot cell portal to prepare for canister entry. A special lifting device is used to lift the carrier that envelops the trunnions on its side. This special lifting device also allows the carrier to be rotated once it's lifted and laid on its side onto a cradle attached to the hot cell portal. The cradle is lined up perfectly with the canister-sized port. It is then pushed to the port, and using a tiny opening in the bottom of the carrier, the canister is pushed out of the carrier, through the port, and into the hot cell. Hot cells are ideal for processing because they provide significantly more shielding than glove boxes. From a safe distance, operators will use mechanical arm manipulators to handle radioactive material.
Now, we were there as the first canister of high-dose U233 was transferred to a hot cell back in October. Those canisters have been in storage at Oak Ridge National Laboratory for decades. As you can imagine, this was a really emotional moment for so many people working on this, especially those who had been part of this effort for a really long time. It was a major milestone, launching this entire project forward. Take a look. Decades-old material, reimagined.
We're storing these for reloading and reshipping.
The mission, to get rid of the uranium-233 stored at Oak Ridge National Laboratory that dates back to the start of the nuclear era.
We're starting out in our hot cell operations, and we actually have the radioactive material inside the hot cells.
This is one of environmental management's biggest projects. But what does it have to do with cancer?
Everyone, family, friends, people in our community, everyone is touched in some way by someone who has suffered from cancer.
When Jim Boland took over as president of Isotech Systems in 2010, even he wasn't entirely sure how this would all play out. Employees spent more than 500,000 hours getting ready to process it.
We discovered that there was a way to dispose directly of about half of the inventory, which we've completed. But then we had to sort out what do we do with the other half. And that's what's led us to this day that we're now talking about.
On this day, the first canister is pulled out.
I was over on the Building 3019 side of what was happening, and when we came out of the building with the first material, and I look across the street at Building 2026, it's all these Isotech folks.
A crowd forms.
Some of them even put on their best shirt for the event.
Employees come out of different buildings just to watch.
There's been all this preparation to this point, and so now to get to the spot where they're actually processing uranium and then extracting thorium that will deliver to TerraPower is just monumental for them.
Thorium is a rare man-made isotope. DOE, Isotech, and TerraPower are working together to use it to cure cancer. The treatment is called targeted alpha therapy.
Well, I started in the lab in 1991, and so I worked on extracting some of the first thorium from the hot cells at 3019, so it's taken 30 years to get to this point.
The people working on every aspect of this know the significance.
It does make you feel good to come into work and knowing that what you're doing has some purpose beyond, getting a paycheck.
Once used as a potential power source, today that same material may just hold the key to saving lives.
The amount of material that we potentially will be extracting is enough for, hundreds of thousands of treatments.
And Oak Ridge, Tennessee is the only place in the world it exists.
I may not be able to use it, but hopefully it'll be out there for my kids or future generations that they can have some cancer therapy treatment.
As groundbreaking as it once was, only this time with a whole new purpose. Now that the equipment is installed and building upgrades are complete, employees can start the extraction process inside the hot cells. Hot cells protect workers against radiation so they can safely extract that rare and life-saving thorium-229. Now, John's going to give us a look at what happens inside those hot cells. Then after that, we're going to talk about the next steps.
So now that the canister is safely in the hot cell, operators will use manipulators to pick it up and cut it open. They'll remove a container holding U233 from the canister and then dispose of the canister in a debris drum underneath the hot cell pan. The U233 will then be divided into batches to be transferred to the neighboring processing cell. This is done by placing the batch into a sliding door on the side of the division cell that goes through to the processing cell. Just like in the glove boxes, the U233 will be mixed with nitric acid, creating uranyl nitrate. It's pumped through the transuranic column, where the resin inside captures transuranic elements to separate it from the uranyl nitrate. After that, it's pumped through the thorium column, and thorium is separated from the uranyl nitrate. The U233 is singled out now in a dump bottle after passing through the columns. We'll be downblending it further though, by circulating pre-made depleted uranyl nitrate through piping in the hot cells. This circulation generates pressure that will suck the uranyl nitrate out of the hot cell into the recirculation system and through to the waste tanks in another area of Building 2026 where the depleted uranyl nitrate originated. Adding processing waste to the depleted uranyl nitrate creates downblended uranyl nitrate. Once a tank reaches a specified amount of waste, the contents will be solidified. To do this, a fill head is lowered on top of it and cement is transferred from a silo outside of Building 2026. Thousands of pounds of cement will be transferred into the waste tank, and mixing blades inside will mix the waste with the cement until it is a solid piece of concrete. Now that it's prepared for shipment, it just needs to be moved onto a shipping truck. The waste tanks sit on air pallets that will allow operators to move these massive structures weighing tens of thousands of pounds. Because of this, a tank can easily be moved outside of Building 2026. A crane outside will then lift the waste tank off the air pallet and place it into a shipping cast on a transportation truck. The U233 waste is then transported to a disposal site. That's only half the process though. We still want to get that thorium so it can be used for cancer treatment research. To get it off the resin column, a different concentration of nitric acid is run through the column, releasing the thorium from the resin. The thorium and nitric acid solution is then pumped into an evaporator that is heated until the nitric acid evaporates away, leaving just the thorium from the column remaining. This used to be our last step when we extracted thorium in glove boxes, but we've since developed additional methods to separate even more of the uranium from the thorium product. So nitric acid is put into the evaporator flask, making a concentrated form of the thorium and nitric acid solution. Then it's pumped into a new column, the thorium concentrate column. Thorium is also attracted to the resin in this column, and the nitric acid with small amounts of uranium passes through and is downblended. To get the thorium off this column, hydrochloric acid is added to release the thorium. That solution is then pumped back into the evaporator. Once again, the solution is heated until the hydrochloric acid is evaporated, leaving thorium with an even smaller amount of uranium remaining. Hydrochloric acid is added again, and that solution is pumped through one last column, the thorium polishing column. This time, uranium is captured by the column, so the solution can be pumped to the evaporator. One last time, the solution is heated, leaving just the thorium product. This is, by and large, the only available thorium-229 in the world, so the work we do here has the potential to make an incredible positive impact on cancer treatment research.
All right, so you heard John mention the leftover waste from this process. Just a few weeks ago, the first shipment of that radioactive waste was sent off for disposal. We got to witness that exact part of this process. Take a look. This is video from that very first departure. The waste has been downblended and processed so it can be safely shipped. It's taken out of state for permanent disposal. EM's goal is to eliminate the entire inventory of this nuclear material. Our coverage of this groundbreaking research continues online. We're going to bring you more stories from the No One Fights Alone event on our social media accounts throughout the month. Keep an eye out for our Energy Extras on this topic. That's where we take a story from our newscast and go even more in-depth online. And make sure you're following us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We post stories and Energycast episodes there. You can expect continuing coverage in future episodes of Energycast as well. Now, let's take a look at more EM news. Electric vehicles are here across the complex. EM aims to add 150 of them to the fleet this year. Now, this move aligns with the Biden administration's recent order prohibiting the purchase of gas-powered vehicles at federal facilities after the year 2027. So the first one in our area can now be found in the United Cleanup Oak Ridge parking lot, or UCOR. The company is slated to get 11 of them in the first phase. Here it is, pulling up. You see EM manager Jay Mullis and UCOR CEO Ken Reuter checking out the first arrival as the transition of the fleet to electric vehicles begins. These cars are an important part of the sustainability program. They'll be delivered to sites across the country as they become available through the U.S. General Services Administration and will replace the existing inventory. Transitioning the Oak Ridge fleet is estimated to avoid up to 320 metric tons in annual carbon emissions and about $50,000 in fuel costs each year. EM's sustainability efforts aren't stopping there. The Savannah River site in South Carolina just announced it's helping reach EM's goal in a big way. Personnel there have ordered 62 electric vehicles as they work to transition their fleet. Now, as part of that effort, crews have also installed 8 fast charging stations. Those stations are capable of providing a 0 to 80% charge in only 30 minutes. A national EM leader now has a better understanding of the work happening right now in Oak Ridge. Jeff Avery visited this month. Avery serves as the second in command for the Office of Environmental Management at headquarters in Washington, D.C. He joined EM in January, and this marked his first time to Oak Ridge in this role. Our team caught up with him to hear about his experiences with the cleanup program so far and his time in Oak Ridge.
I just got to tell you, there is so much work going on. And what I have found without exception is just an extremely talented team and passionate team about executing the mission. The future is really bright here.
All right, we've got some budget numbers to share with you now. The Biden administration recently submitted its budget request to Congress for the 2024 budget. We're going to give you a quick dive at the figures for the Department of Energy and the EM program. So the president's request provides Congress a point to begin deliberations on what their approved budget should be. You can see DOE received $45.8 billion to perform its missions in 2023. That total is funding all of DOE's diverse programs, ranging from national security to research, clean energy, and environmental cleanup. The president is requesting $52 billion for DOE in 2024. Next, we look more specifically at the EM program. The president's budget request for EM next year is $8.3 billion. That total funds cleanup at all of the EM sites across the country, including Oak Ridge. You can see the complete listing of how much was requested for each site. That includes $635 million for cleanup in Oak Ridge in 2024. That figure is consistent with what Oak Ridge has received in recent years to continue advancing cleanup at ORNL, Y12, and ETTP. Some people really don't like working in an office. Some people instead really like working on a floating barge in the middle of a creek. We're going to take you out to the water and show you how it's done. We don't care how low you can go. We care how high they can go. We're checking back in on the stack inspections. Employees tasked with climbing 250 feet are working their way toward the top in the name of safety. We're going to show you how far they've gotten and some really cool drone video of the action. Demolition is officially underway at the Oak Ridge National Lab's low-intensity test reactor. This marks another important step forward as EM transforms ORNL's central campus area. The project is eliminating a former reactor facility that was built in 1951 and operated until 1968. The teardown began in March by first removing the West Laboratory, then onto other ancillary structures. This month, crews will finish the first phase of demolition by knocking down that East Laboratory. Phase 2 will involve removing the third floor of the structure. That'll allow better access to remove the reactor. UCOR Senior Project Manager Brad Adams explains what will be involved for those next phases.
Once we are at that point where we've removed the overhead hazard associated with the precast concrete slabs, we'll have structural engineering and safety evaluate the remaining structure to allow us to re-enter the facility to do some reactor prep in anticipation of the reactor removal.
Adams says the project is on schedule for completion later this year. A long-awaited project is taking a major step forward. We are talking about the K25 Viewing Platform at the East Tennessee Technology Park. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers just awarded Geiger Brothers a $9.9 million contract to build the facility. Geiger Brothers is a full-service construction and engineering firm headquartered in Jackson, Ohio. The company also has offices in Knoxville and Columbus. With the contract now in place, construction is slated to begin this May. Through an interagency agreement signed last year, EM is providing the funds for this project, and the Army Corps of Engineers will oversee its construction. This new facility will be next to the K25 History Center and give visitors a complete view of K25's massive 44-acre footprint. The building is expected to be complete and open to visitors in late 2024. We are staying at the East Tennessee Technology Park for our next story too. Earlier this month, EM released its proposed plan for how it will address areas with contaminated groundwater at that site. That contamination originates back to when ETTP was a uranium enrichment complex. Enrichment stopped in the late 1980s, and EM is working to finish all soil excavation and groundwater cleanup there in the coming years. EM's ultimate goal is to transform the site into an industrial center, historic park, and conservation area. Now, that proposed plan for groundwater is available for public comment through May 19th. EM is also hosting a public meeting on that topic on April 25th. You can see details about that on your screen right here, also on our homepage at energy.gov/OREM. How about working on a floating platform? That's what the crew out at Poplar Creek is doing. The platform was installed using a 225-ton crane. Let's go ahead and take a look at work being done there and how.
The goal of this particular project was to clean the area of the creek bank where the ditch itself had drained into Poplar Creek during operation of the facility. We looked at a couple different ways to do it. One of the easiest ways would have been to dig down the side of the hill to it. That would have required moving about 8,000 cubic yards of clean soil out of the way. That's a big disturbance and a lot of restoration. So in looking at other methods that we could use, we decided to go with a barge-based approach. The U-Core piece of this was everything around the Savannah work. Savannah provided the barge and the equipment. The personnel who are used to working on the barge, they actually did the physical removal and packaging of the soils and the restoration of the areas. U-Core did the engineering, the planning, the construction of the barge launch where we're standing right now in preparation for the work and then supported disposition of the waste containers that were generated during the excavation and helped demobilize and mobilize all the equipment onto site. It was a new effort for us. There was a lot of work put into it from different groups. Our engineering group supported us, our waste group supported us. Work planning was extensive on this because it was new for U-Core. We put a lot of time into that. The planning period ran about 3 or 4 months. The work itself ran just a little over a week. About 10 cubic yards of material was removed and dispositioned. It will be disposed of as hazardous or as radioactive hazardous waste at Energy Solutions here within the next month or so as we wrap up the overall project.
By our standards, it's not a very large remediation by any means. However, it carried the potential for a lot of risks given that it was bordering Poplar Creek. And so as we were developing Task Order 3 and planning through how we wanted to execute that, one of the things that I looked at with the Heritage Center leadership was bringing in U-Core's majority parent company, Amentum's mentor protege with Savannah Environmental Services. Now, while Savannah isn't widely known across the Department of Energy Environmental Management complex, they are a very well-respected industry leader for environmental remediation for the Army Corps of Engineers, the Department of Defense, various FUSRAT projects, and Superfund cleanup. And so as we were looking through how we wanted to go execute this, we quickly realized that Savannah brought a lot to the table. We keep hearing from DOE EM leadership that they would like to see new businesses and organizations come into our industry to bring value and different methods and means of doing things. And this is a prime example of where U-Core, through our parent company, reached out to an industry leader, Savannah, to bring a new tool into our toolbox that was used for this cleanup and will be used for future task orders.
Well, they're still climbing. There they go. Last month, we showcased some brave souls who are inspecting a 250-foot structure at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. We promised we would keep you up to speed on their progress. EM has used drones to perform visual inspections in recent years. Those pictures indicated it was time to get a closer look at the structural condition. Current schedules have the stack standing another 10 years before it's taken down. That's why it's important to check its condition and any needed repairs. Now, those crews are inspecting an average of 5 feet per day. This project involves workers going up a total of 250 feet. You can see right here they are making really great progress. They've climbed and inspected 223 feet so far. They're almost there. That work is scheduled to be finished next month. A star-studded cast is telling the story of the Manhattan Project. The Oppenheimer movie is coming to theaters this summer. Just ahead, we're going to take a sneak peek, tell you what to expect as it hits the big screen. A few new faces will be helping guide cleanup efforts in Oak Ridge. Up next, meet the newest members of the Oak Ridge Site-Specific Advisory Board and find out their goals. The summer blockbuster season is right around the corner. This year, there's a release with a strong Oak Ridge connection. It's titled Oppenheimer. Robert Oppenheimer was one of the top minds behind the development of the first atomic weapon. Several characters, played by a star-studded cast, were key leaders in Oak Ridge and other Manhattan Project sites. This is pretty cool. Hit screens July 21st. Here's a quick sneak peek.
They won't fear it until they understand it.
Welcome, new members of the Oak Ridge Site-Specific Advisory Board. That group is made up of community members to give input on the EM work in their area. The newest members got a tour recently. Energycast's Cameron Jacobs shows us their hopes, their goals, and their first impressions.
I learned about the Oak Ridge Site-Specific Advisory Board actually through a newspaper ad. By that time, I had visited the Hanford, Washington site and learned about Oak Ridge and the historical importance of Oak Ridge, but I didn't realize that there was an opportunity for citizens like us to be involved, so I learned about that through the newspaper.
New members of the Oak Ridge Site-Specific Advisory Board recently got the opportunity to tour EM's cleanup efforts across the Oak Ridge Reservation. The board is comprised of 20 members who live in Oak Ridge and adjacent counties to where cleanup is happening. Members can serve up to 6 years, and new individuals join as others complete their terms. This makes ongoing outreach and education critical. EM regularly updates members about its projects through meetings and tours. In return, the board shares recommendations and input from the community's perspective. It all starts with understanding EM's mission, and Mary Butler said the new member orientation opened her eyes.
Well, for me, it's just mind-boggling how much work has been done already and how much yet needs to be done. I am not known as a patient person, so I get a little impatient when I hear projects taking decades, but I really understand why it takes that long now.
With a greater understanding of its mission, EM is looking forward for future input and involvement from these new members.
If you'd like more information on the ORSSAB, head on over to the website on your screen. No science background is needed to join if you'd like to apply. Next month is big for us. We cannot believe it, but May marks the first anniversary of Energycast. In that episode, we're going to have a lot more exciting coverage and interviews from our No One Fights Alone event. We're going to learn more about the advances happening with cancer treatment research. We'll also be at the groundbreaking for the new K25 Viewing Platform as that project officially gets underway. And things get pretty interesting when we go off-roading with one of our team members. You will not want to miss it. Thank you for joining us for Energycast. New episodes come out on the third Sunday of the month. You can watch on air and online, and we post Energycast episodes on our Facebook and YouTube pages the day after they air. Head over to follow us on our social media accounts. We're always happy to answer questions and share information with you there as well. And remember, if you work in environmental management in Oak Ridge, keep us in mind if you come across a story. We are always looking for news tips and story ideas from all across the reservation. Email your idea to oakridgeem@orem.doe.gov. Let us know there. You might just see it right here. See you next time.